Hello, welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy, and today I'm here to do a little kind of mini TBR-ish for the Novellathon. I'm super excited. This is the second round of the Novellathon. The first one was hosted back in February, but I was unable to participate because I was in the midst of Pharaoh Feb, but I'm super excited to join in this time. It is going to be hosted with Books with Samantha, Rachel Reads and Sings, Ava Romance Books, and Tiffany from Netherland Pixie, or Tiff Talks Pages. I will have everybody linked down below. And this will run from April 26th through May 1st. And yeah, I'm excited. I didn't have any plans for my TBR the rest of the month, so this will be just kind of great. And have kind of an overarching goal and a lot of books that I might read. So let's just get into it. They did give a build your own bingo board with 9 prompts, so it looks like you can just kind of put them in whatever order you would like. So I have done so. Here is my bingo board. So I put them in the order of new author, BIPOC. I think this is supposed to be a BIPOC author. Disability rep, friends to lovers, less than 100 pages, pink cover, on Kindle Unlimited, LGBTQ, and host recommendation. So here is what I have planning wise. There is a group book that covers most of the prompts, and then I picked a couple other books that I really wanted to read and to kind of give myself a blackout, and then I plan on going from there. So here's my official TBR. My plan is to read 6 books. So my goal is to read one in each of the main 5 subgenres that I read in: contemporary, historical, fantasy, sci-fi, and paranormal. However, I have 2 planned books for fantasy, so that makes it the 6. So for contemporary, the group book is Crybaby by Marina Vivancos. This covers host recommendation, pink cover, LGBTQ plus. This is a romance. I believe it's like friends to lovers as well. This would be a new author for me, and a whole bunch of other prompts. I can't remember if it's less than 100 pages or not. Oh, it's also on Kindle Unlimited, so that covers most of my prompts. The only, the 2 big main ones I think that it didn't cover was less than 100 pages and BIPOC. So for those, as you can see, I do plan on picking up the Marquess and I by Stacey Reed. This is the first book in her Forever Yours series. I still have not read this. This is also on KU. This would cover at the very least BIPOC author. That's why I lean towards picking up Stacey Reed. And I will use this for at the very least, my one historical romance. And I'm very excited to read this. I haven't gotten into the series by Stacey Reed, so I'm excited to get into this one. And then for fantasy romance, I do want to get to the last 2 prequel novellas for Throne of Glass. So I'll move to this because it's my pretty cover. You can see everybody's on here, and then we do have people on the inside as well, but not the front one. The front one's just the landscape. So the prequel novellas I have left in this one is 0.4 and 0.5, which is the Assassin and the Underworld, and the Assassin and the Empire. So I'm very excited. I've been trying to pick these up, and these 2 were on my TBR for this month, so I figured might as well just wait till the end of the month to pick them up and get this series done. And then I have officially finished all of SJM's book. I guess there's a Catwoman book, but at least for her 3 main series, I will have finished Sarah J. Maas. So I'm super excited to finally finish the Throne of Glass series and get those last 2 novellas read, because I'm very, very excited for them. And then as for paranormal and sci-fi, what I plan on doing is creating a spinner wheel, and then I actually have more extra spinner wheels, so we're going to talk about all that. So for sci-fi, we'll do sci-fi first here. Now I am going to have 6 books or 6 authors on each of the spinner wheels that I have created. So the first is going to be Victoria Aveline. This is releasing Maladec. This is book 5.5 in her Quicklanian series. I am a big fan of this series. I actually have the anthology this was released in, I think back in 2021, that I never got to. Maybe it was 2022. It came out in July. I remember that. So never got to it, and that it then released on KU, and it never got to it. And then when I was looking through Novellas to purchase, I was like, oh, too bad this one doesn't have a paperback. And then I looked, and it has a paperback. So I have all of Victoria Aveline in paperback, and I probably will pick this one up and not do the spinner wheel, but we will see what kind of mood I'm feeling in. I didn't mention, most of these books I tried to pick are in the 160 or less range. There are a couple that are slightly above that, but everything is at the very least under 200 pages. However, this paperback is like 219 pages, but I feel like the KU version is a lot shorter, so I don't know what happened there, but interesting formatting. So this is one of the 6 sci-fis that I will have in the spinner wheel, although I'm very much leaning towards picking this one up over the others. But I do plan on doing a vlog for the Novellathon, so also wanted to throw that out there. As for the other books, I will have Ella Maven, The Alien's Future. This is the first book in her Drixonian Warriors, so this is 0.5. I have read books 1 and I think book 2 in this series, so this will be a good chance to go back and read the prequel novella before I pick up the rest of the series. I also have 2 books on here from Annabelle Rex. However, I will just have her in as one slot, and so I have the 2.5 novella, which is Arden, and this is free from her newsletter, I think. And Arden is an intergalactic soulmates series, so this is 2.5, and it does like DNA testing, I think, to find your intergalactic soulmate. And I think these are both aliens, if I remember correctly, and the sister, I think, is the sister of one of the heroes in one of the previous books. Or I can just continue on in the series and pick up book 6, which is Wraith. So either or, I'll decide if I get it, which one of the 2 I will pick up at the time. Also, I have the Interdimensional Lord's Earthly Delight by Elsa Jade. This is the 3rd book in her Black Hole Brides series, and I read the first 2 like back in 2020, and when I've been working on my series tracker, I realized I never finished the series. I never read the 3rd book, so it is under 150 pages, so I added it on this list so I can finish that off. Then I have When She's Ready by Ruby Dixon. This is the first book in her Rizdverse series, of which I have not started, but I would like to at some point get through Ruby Dixon's backlist. I have read quite a few or most of her Ice Planet Barbarians books, and I feel like I've read a couple of her standalones or multi-author series books, so this is also an option. And then the final one I have is Lunar Paradise by Crystal Rose. This is the first book in her Lunar series. I actually recently found out about this series because it is the next book box that Enchanted Fandom is doing, and the first 2 books are going to be in this. And this sounds very intriguing because it's after the humans are like abducted, and so they've kind of gotten rescued already, so they're in this sort of colony or area where they kind of have to figure out what they're going to do with the rest of their lives. And so they have a couple options of like what roles they want to take in this area. And so there's, I think, like a farmhand, or to like work on a farm, or there's to like work in a brothel or something like that, or be like a sex companion to an alien or something like that. So I think this first, and there's a couple options from what I vaguely remember. In this first book, I think the heroine chooses like the sex companion situation. So it sounded intriguing. The lady that runs Enchanted Fandoms really liked it, obviously enough to put the first 2 books in a book box. So I am definitely intrigued to read this series, and I immediately checked it out on KU. So I already have it checked out, which is exciting. Plus, I love these types of covers. I think they're gorgeous. Then moving on to paranormal. So these are the 6 books I will have on my paranormal spinner wheel. So we have Wolf Signs by Vivian Arend. This is the first book in her Granite Lake Wolves series. I've read a couple other series by Vivian Arend. It's been a while since I've read her, but I enjoyed her books. So I thought, ooh, this might be a fun time to pick up one of her other series. I also have Sweet Dreams by Dana Marie Bell. This is the second book in her Hallie Pumas series. I enjoyed the first book. I thought it was super fun. The first book I listened to audiobook on Hoopla, so I'm hoping that this one might have an audiobook so I can kind of squeeze in some extra reading during the readathon. The third one I have is another Ruby Dixon book, but this is in her Bear Bites series, and this is the first book is Shift Out of Luck. You can get this series on KU, however, it is like the full 4 or 5 book bind up, so you can't get them singly. So if I check it out, I might end up binging the series depending on what happens. Next, I have a new release, The Vampire in the Bookstore by L.M. Drew. I mean, the cover is what grabbed me and made me put this on my TBR. So I'll leave that there. Then I have For I Have Sinned by Dorinda Jones. This is novella 1.5 in the Charlie Davidson series. I have read the first book. It's been a couple of years maybe. I enjoyed it, and I definitely want to continue more in the series. So I thought this might be a good jumping point to get back into the series before picking up book 2. And then another, as you can tell, a lot of these are from series I haven't touched in a while because I have been working on my series tracker. But anyway, the final paranormal book I have on here is Shift Out of Luck by Abigail Owen. This is in her Brimstone series. This is the second book. It used to be called something else, the Karmic Consultation series or something like that, but it has since been rebranded into the Brimstone series with new covers. And I enjoyed the first book. I gave it 5 stars. It's been a while since I read the first book, but I feel like recently this book or this series was mentioned in one of her newsletters, and I was like, oh, I need to finish that series. So I have it here. So there are the 6 options I have for paranormal. So all of those books, so one of the sci-fi, one of the paranormal, and then the 4 I mentioned before is going to be my ultimate goal. Then after that point, I will then randomly kind of pick up different subgenres and return to spinner wheels. So I did create a couple other spinner wheels that I will be using if I go back into some of the other subgenres that I already had a planned book from. So we'll just kind of quickly go over these so you can see what I will be spinning. But like I said, I will be vlogging everything, so you will see my spins. For historical, I have A Tryst by the Sea by Grace Burrows. This is the first book in the Sirens Retreat Quartet series. And I think this is a series where 2 books are by Grace Burrows and 2 books are by Erica Ridley, if I remember correctly. Or all 4 books are by different authors, but most of them are popular indie historical authors, or that do have indie series. Then I have The Highlands Bride's Choice by Amanda Foster. This is the first book in the Campbell Sisters series, and I purchased this on Kindle a long time ago and still haven't read it. Then I have 2 Jeannie Lin books. So I have, both of them are the prequel novellas. The first is to the Pekong Lee Mysteries, which is Capturing the Silken Thief, which I guess is supposed to kind of set up the series. But I never got around to reading it. I just read the first book. And then I had to have Tang Dynasty prequel novella on here, which is The Taming of Mei Lin. And this is, so in the first book of the Tang Dynasty, The Butterfly Swords, you hear a story about the heroine in that book, Eilee's grandmother, and how her grandmother like met her grandfather and got married. And this book is that story, which I thought when I read that book, ooh, I would love to read their story. And then I realized after I finished the book and was looking at the rest of the series that you can read their story. So I'm very excited for it. And I believe both of these are in like a Harlequin bind-up that she has with like 3 novellas in it. And I think both of those are included in that with another novella. So that might be how I get it, is if I get that bind-up book. Because I don't know if you can get these novellas by themselves anymore. But anyway, I'm excited for both of those. A little more excited for the Tang Dynasty one. But I will have them on separate slices on my spinner wheel. Then I have The Ice Duchess by Tracy Sumner. This has been in a couple of my Readathon TBRs the past couple ones I've done that this works for. I really want to start getting into Tracy Sumner. A lot of her books intrigue me a lot, and she is an indie or a small publisher historical author, and this is a prequel novella for her Duchess Society. And I think when I got this was free. So I don't know if it's still free or not. But if you're intrigued by it, definitely see if it's still free. And I think a lot of the books in the Duchess Society are on KU, or I found them on my Hoopla. One or the other. I can't remember. And then the final one I have is one that I saw making the rounds on Bookstagram not too long ago. And that is In Which Margot Halifax Earns Her Shocking Reputation by Alexandra Vosti. And this is the first book in her Halifax Hellions novella series. Now, this book and the second book in this series are free downloads when you sign up for her newsletter. But I've heard great things about both of these, and I think it might be time to try to get to read them finally. Then moving on to fantasy. So a recent fantasy author I found was Lauren Connolly, and I was obsessed with the first book in her Folk Haven series. I immediately signed up for her newsletter, and when you sign up for that, you get A Selkie Secret, which is the prequel novella for that. And, you know, it's more Selkies, and I'm definitely intrigued to read more in this series, and I'm very excited for it. I am loving Lauren Connolly right now. And I do consider this fantasy over paranormal because it has a lot of mythological based shifters and creatures in this, and I consider that more fantasy than paranormal, but it could work for both depending on where your line is between the two. And then also another similar one, I consider dragons fantasy even though it's a dragon shifter, so I'm also counting this one as fantasy, and that is Dragon Unraveled by November Dawn. This is the first book in her Amber City Shifters series, and this is the second book she's ever published. I read the first book that she ever published and it was great, and I was ready for more in that demon world. And then she released this one, which is in a completely different series, and I was like, oh no. And that's it so far. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm excited to read it. I've had this checked out on KU since I got the notification from Amazon, because I do follow November Dawn on Amazon. So when I got the notification she had a new book, I immediately downloaded it, and I haven't read it yet. Then I had to throw a Grace Draven novella on here that I have not read, and that is going to be A Memory of Summer. This is the 3.5 book in her Wraith King series, which is Radiance and Eidolon, that series. I love Grace Draven's novellas. She has some of the best novellas I've ever read. Then I had to throw Megan Van Dyke on here. She is a new favorite fantasy author of mine, and I had to add A Gift for a Fae Warrior, which is the prequel novella to her Courts of Fairy series, of which the second book in that series recently came out earlier this year. Then I have an author that I've kind of been seeing the rounds of as being similar or friends with Alessa Thorne, and that is Amy Kuvalainen, I'm going to say. And that is The Lion and the Star. This is her prequel book to her Tarot Kings series. So fantasy, tarot, romance, I'm here for it, and I'm excited to potentially read this. I want to read all of these books I'm talking about. So I'll just say that. I'm excited for all of them. And then the final fantasy book I have on my spinner wheel is going to be Thief of Dreams by Beck McMaster. This is the first book in her Court of Dreams trilogy, of which all 3 books are set around the same main heroine, but it is also a romance. So I purchased this a while ago. I still haven't read it. I'm a big fan of Beck McMaster's, so it's time to try to finally get another book of hers read. Okay, so then we have contemporary. And let's just say when I was like writing down my list on who goes where, what subgenres, I ended up with 30 contemporary novellas that I was like most intrigued. So I narrowed it down, and I'm going to have 2 contemporary spinner wheels. Somehow 6 of the books ended up with mostly blue covers, so I separated it into contemporaries and blue contemporaries, and I don't know how I'm going to choose between the 2. When I end up getting a contemporary, we'll see. I still have a couple days from filming this to when the readathon starts that I can decide how I'm going to choose between spinner wheels and stuff, but we'll go over my 2 spinner wheels really quickly for that. So the first is Love and the Library by Lauren Connolly. This is a standalone. This is the other novella that I received when signing up for her newsletter. And this, I think, is new adult in college, and they like fight over the same space in the library or something like that. I don't know. It sounded cute. Library-based romance, so I'm here for it. Then I have The One Night Stand Next Door. This is the prequel novella in Emma Hart's The Girl Next Door series. Now, I call it a series, but really it's a book with this prequel novella. This is the older sister Ivy's story from, I think she's the heroine in the second book of the Bookworm's Guide to Dating trilogy, which I recently read. I think it was book 2, which is the Bookworm's Guide to Faking It. But you see Ivy in all 3 books, and she has her baby, I think, in the second book. So this is the story of her and Kai. So I will be excited to go back and see them. I know they kind of have a fake dating situation because there's a chuckle made about it because her and her younger sister both end up with a fake dating situation, and Kai, who is Ivy's partner, is like, how did both of you sisters end up in fake dating situations? Like, what's the silliness of that? So I'm not exactly sure if they slept together and she got pregnant and then that started their romance, so it was a surprise pregnancy, or if that just kind of kicked off their romance, but they were next door neighbors and then they ended up getting pregnant in the first book. So I'm not sure what happened there, but this is the prequel novella, I guess, that is that initial start to their romantic relationship. And then we have the full book. Both of them are on audio on Hoopla, so if I get this one, I probably will pick it up via audio. Then I have my first Ashley Mack book. You'll see the other one on the blue covers one, but this will be Offerings, which is the first book in her Elmwood College series. This is new adult. I know nothing about it outside of I enjoyed the other books that I've read from Ashley Mack, and this is a novella series, and I'm intrigued to read it, and I think this cover is super awesome. Then I have In the Clear by Tamara Morgan. This is the first book in her Winter Rescue series. This is small mountain town, and one of the guys is search and rescue, and I think this is a best friend's little sister or older brother's best friend or something like that. Then I realized I still have not read Just Say When, which is a short story set in Jill Shalvis's Heartbreaker Bay series, which is book 6.5. Still need to read that. Jill Shalvis is one of my favorite contemporary authors, and I couldn't believe I had. So I have some novellas from Lucky Harbor left as well, and I have a couple novellas from Heartbreaker Bay. But the ones from Lucky Harbor aren't on this list because almost all of the ones I have left to read are Christmas ones, so I might wait till the end of the year to read them. And then I had to throw a Megan Wade book on here. I'm a big fan of her novellas. Some of them are 4 or 5 stars. Some of them are like 3 stars. So she's kind of a mix-up for me, but I went with Quilts and Chuckles, which is the second book in her Happy Curves series. And the first book, I think I gave 4.5 stars. So that's why I chose this series over her others. But I might just put Megan Wade on my slice and choose any Megan Wade because most of the books she writes are novella length. Then my final spinner wheel that we'll have is my blue contemporary spinner wheel. So we have Please Be Seated by Jenny Bunting. This is the first book in her Stuck in Love trilogy. And all 3 of these, I believe, are novella length. I'm a fan of Jenny Bunting's Finch Family series. So I definitely want to go through and read this series and eventually her other series to get through her backlist. Then I have The Fighter's Prize by Jessica Kane. I know Jessica Kane is a popular novella author that people like to recommend, and I only had a couple of hers marked as want to read on Goodreads. This was one of the couple, and yeah, so I know people like her. And I don't remember anything outside of This Is MMA and The Fighter's Prize. So there we go. Then I had to add Everly Dalton's Dating Disasters. This is the prequel novella to Claire Kingsley's Dirty Martini Running Club series, of which I have not read yet, but I want to read. So I thought I'd throw the prequel novella on here. Then we have The Unmatchmakers by Jackie Lau. This is a standalone. It was a Kobo original, but I think I can get it from my local library. This one is one of the ones that's a little, I think it's like 180-ish, so it's a little longer than I wanted to do for the Novellathon, but I had to throw Jackie Lau on here. And everything else is like over 200 pages that I have left to read from her. So I had to throw this one on there, and I hope I get it because I'm very excited. And this is kind of set in like family retreat, camping retreat situation. So it's the perfect time of year now that we're getting into warmer weather. Then I have my other Ashley Mack book, which is Look at Me. And this is the novella 1.5 in the census. So this one correlates with characters from the first book. And then the final book I have is Hooked by Kathy Yardley. This is book 1.5 in her Fandom Hearts series. I read the first book and I really enjoyed it. I definitely want to read more. These are all fandom-based books. Kathy Yardley likes to do that, do the geeky, nerdy romances, and I am here for it. Kathy Yardley is also an Asian author, and I'm a big fan of her books, so yeah, I'm excited to pick this one up at some point whenever I get to. Maybe it'll happen during the readathon. But that's it. That is all of the billion books that I have on my potential TBR. And or recommendations for you if you're interested in any of these. I think a lot of these are prequel novellas, which is kind of a good place for people to start. But anyway, I'm super excited to participate, and we'll see how much reading I get to do. It is mostly, it's like a Wednesday through a Monday. So I think most of my reading will be on the weekend. It also kind of depends on what happens with hockey because the Avalanche are in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. So they are playing every other day. So who knows what the situation will be like there. But if they finish the first round early and have some time to rest, I might not have even any games to watch. So that would give me like time to read. But I did try to throw a couple of books that had audiobooks options on here as well. So we'll see what happens. Like I've said multiple times, I do plan on vlogging for the readathon. And yeah, I'm super excited. I think I should at the very least be able to get a blackout when I finish my 4 main books. And then I'm kind of excited to mood read or just do my spinner wheels and go random, and we'll see what happens. But Let me know down below if you are participating in the Novellathon, and excuse me, if you have any other recs, or if you have any that you're excited about that I chatted about. If you'd like to just leave me an emoji, why don't you leave me an emoji that represents your favorite romance subgenre? So you can kind of go loosey-goosey with it. But otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all soon with another video.